be our last session. We have our first paper is going to be presented by Todd Flanagan. He's a former past president of the WMA. He's going to summarize Texas weather mod operations in 2012. I'll let Todd tell himself, introduce all of this.
All right, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Todd Flanagan. I'm a project meteorologist at the South Texas Weather Modification Association. I've been doing it for, this will be my 16th season. Can y'all hear me? I can't really hear myself.
You don't need to.
All right, let's try that. So I've been working with the South Texas Weather Mod for the past 15 years, and just recently over the past 4 winters, I've also been working for a cloud seeding project in Central California. But what I'm here today is to just give a brief summary about our cloud seeding operations in the state of Texas last year. And all the names up there, all the meteorologists, we're actually all here today. I think this is a first for a WMA conference. So I'm just going to go ahead and summarize the operations for each of the target areas. Wow, this really isn't a great projector. We still have 4 or 5 projects in the state. The Panhandle project is based out of White Deer, just east of Amarillo. The SOAR project, the Trans-Pecos project, and down here, here's where it gets really, the lighting is just really bad. The Southwest Texas Rain Enhancement Association, and then the South Texas Weather Mod Association. There's a project here, it's colored differently. It should be like a purplish color. This project is actually divided up between the South Texas program, which has these 3 counties here, of which one of them is the one we're in, and the Southwest Texas Rain Enhancement Association covers Uvalde County. Now, this past year, the Southwest Texas program, which used to cover all the counties from Uvalde down to Webb, the 3 central counties did not participate. So they had a kind of a segmented target area with 1 county in the north and 1 county in the south. So that was the only real difference this year compared to previous years. Brief summary on the weather here in the state. It was very much a flip-flop type of year. We had alternating wet and dry periods, and even with the wet periods, they would all happen within a 1 week's period of time on average, and then we'd have about a 30-40-day period with nothing happening. So beginning in March, we began to see this pattern of flip-flopping. This just represents the year's total precipitation. When you first look at the color scheme and the legends here on the side, it looks pretty normal. I mean, this is the sort of gradient you would expect in Texas as far as annual precipitation. Highest over here by the Louisiana border, and obviously a lot less as you get out into the deserts around El Paso. As far as the percent of normal, we had pockets here in West Texas where they did really well. They had 1 month, I think, where they saw quite a bit of rain for that area anyway. And a few pockets here and there of above normal precipitation. But once again, like in 2011, precip on average was below normal, although not quite as dramatically below normal as it was in 2011. Just picking some spots within each of the target areas. The March to October precip, which is basically the main seeding season here in Texas. And you'll see the numbers here. Compare them to the normals. Pretty much every single place was below normal except for Pecos. They ended up just a little bit above. San Angelo was pretty close. A little bit of a difference in Pleasanton, but Laredo down there in South Texas still had quite a deficit as far as precip, and also in Amarillo. The drought has continued. It's eased up in some areas. It's completely gone away in a couple, but in certain areas it has persisted, namely in parts of northwest Texas and the Panhandle, and then also in deep South Texas. And as far as the drought monitor, this is the map for March 6th. This is about a week before the first seeding operations occurred in the state, and you can see a lot of exceptional drought in the western half of Texas and also down here in Webb County, right around Laredo, and also along the Gulf Coast. Some areas did really well, or were doing really well, and near and west of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there was no classification of drought at that time. And then as we go to October 30th, which is about 1 to 2 weeks after the last seeding missions in the state, there is improvement. You definitely see a lot less of the red and dark reds, but in some places it really hasn't changed, namely around the Corpus Christi, Brownsville area, out here near Del Rio, and in some spots up here in northwestern Texas. So there's been some improvement, that's good, but not for all areas. And again, we had a little bit more rain this year compared to 2011, but there were long periods in between these rainfall events. So even though in some cases the month ended up with above normal precip, it all came in one shot. Because of this, whenever we would get a heavy rain event, most times the lakes and reservoirs did not respond well. Although there was one case around San Angelo in late September where a really large cluster of storms moved across the area, and in some cases the lakes rose up to 25 feet after the storm ended, which was really good for that area because they were in danger of losing their water. One thing that was also peculiar this year, we didn't have any tropical waves or tropical disturbances affecting the state. Public outreach, we like to keep educating the people on what we're doing. We're trying to kind of tone down the paranoid factor of anyone thinking we're trying to do something bad. So we have the state newsletter that we've been doing since 2007, and we keep putting that out. So we continued on with that. Here's kind of an example of what it looks like. I think this is the one from April of last year. And so just an example of different articles that we all write. Continuing our presentations to schools, local organizations. Every year we all get together and have a workshop, so that happened. And of course the media from time to time would contact us, and in 2012 that was no different. Several newspaper stories, and then of course Nightline came down and did a story in September that aired in October. Let's get into operations. So last year in 2012, I'm going to basically focus on 4 of the 5 programs, because this is where I have information for. Here's the number of flights, and there's the legend here. Blue is how many flights occurred last year, and then the red is the average over the lifetime of each of the programs. So for Panhandle, a little bit below normal as far as the number of flights. West Texas and South Texas saw above normal flights, a little bit busier weather there. This is a bit misleading to Southwest Texas, again, because they lost 3 of their counties. They only had to worry about a fraction of their normal target area, so it shows lower flights, but believe me, in those counties in between there was weather, and that number would have been a lot higher. Going district by district, let's start with the Panhandle Conservation, the Groundwater Conservation District in White Deer. 27 days where they had seeding operations and 29 flights. June, July, which normally is the busiest time of the year, was their busiest. 6 days and 7 flights each of those months. And then the rest of the months, the activity was spread out pretty evenly. Warmer than normal, but not as bad as 2011. Only about 24, 25 days at or above 100 degrees compared to double that the previous year. And Amarillo set a record high in August. Jen sent me a case for y'all to look at, so I'm just going to set this up. On this particular day, there was a surface trough in the area, and some cells began to develop just to the east and southeast of Amarillo in Armstrong and Donnelly counties after 2230Z. The flight launched shortly thereafter, and then seeding commenced once they found some good rain-free bases and strong updrafts. 45 flares were used, 40-gram burn-in-place silver iodide flares, and you'll see that the cluster convection does pretty well. Activity wanes after 140Z. Now, here's our target area here. Amarillo's right here. So this the plane has just took off, and it's going to go focus on these cells here. This is Armstrong, Donley, and this is Carson County. So basically, the activity is going to develop along here. Hopefully, this will work. Yes. Okay. So we just watch the evolution, and there's the seeding going on there, the change of the track color. And each time step in the radar is 4 minutes. So each time the radar has changed, 4 minutes has gone by. This is the type image. Okay.
Do it again, do it again.
Okay, sure.
This is exciting, you see? How can you not be in love with that activity? Yes.
I don't believe there was any severe weather. I know we have criteria, and apparently Amarillo likes to get trigger happy with their warnings, so they were able to effectively do some seeding without having to stand down. Okay. This is the rainfall map. Again, this is produced by Titan, and again, the legends over here in millimeters. So some parts, some areas underneath this convection did fairly well with precip, a couple inches at least. Moving south to the West Texas Weather Modification Association program in San Angelo. And yes, this is a thunderstorm over San Angelo. Last year, 44 days of seeding, 72 flights, which is near average. July and August, busy, which is usually the case. Seeding operations started back in March and continued through October. Like the rest of the state, drought conditions continued. They improved, but still, with the situation of these rains falling sporadically with long periods in between, it really, the benefits were not as easily seen. And as I mentioned earlier, they had a storm in the latter part of September, which really helped to fill up the lakes that were almost completely dry. With those storms at the end of the month, over 80,000 acre-feet drained into the lakes and reservoirs, so that was good for them. And I don't have a radar case to show from them. So I'll move on to the South Texas Weather Mod Association, the program I work for in Pleasanton. Last year we had 53 days of seeding, which is higher than what we normally see on an average year. 83 flights, 148 flight hours. Down here, about 1 every 3 years, we will have a flight in March. We'll see good conditions, and that happened last year. One day in May was just ridiculous. Our target area is 6.5 million acres, which is a pretty good size, but about 10, 11 counties. But on that particular day, 30 tornadoes, 23 severe thunderstorm warnings, and 9 flash flood warnings. And this started out to be a seeding day, but we had to stop because the weather just got a little ridiculous. Our July was really busy. We had 18 days where we conducted operations. The subtropical high, which really baked the center of the country, moved far enough north where we got some easterly events, but they weren't real true tropical waves, which is something we depend on for rain down here in July and August. September, we had a really weird overrunning event in the middle of September. We don't normally see that type of thing occur until the earliest, maybe December, lasting into February or March. But it was a definite overrunning event, and the whole area got about 1 inch or 2 of rain. And then we also had one seeding day in November, which has only happened once before in the 16-year history of the program. So that was nice. And then this graph here, this shows our seeding days, total flights, and recon flights from the beginning of the program in '97 to what happened last year. So it almost looks like some type of sinusoidal curve is happening here, so you might want to maybe be able to kind of guess what might happen this year. I do have a case to show. July 9th of last year, with the sea breeze comes through about 2/3 of the days in the summer, and usually when the sea breeze has gone by, we're stable. The air is stable behind there, but there was an axis of instability, I guess is the best way I can explain it, formed after the sea breeze front went by in my southern target area, and convection just fired off really quickly. Severe thunderstorm warning was issued, which for our program we can't do any seeding, but they canceled it really quickly. So then we were able to go in and investigate. And we did do a little bit of seeding, 15 silver iodide and 4 hydroscopic flares. And this storm did really well, produced up to 2.5 inches of rain in my southeastern target area. And again, I've zoomed in on the county because there's some other stuff going on up here, and I wanted everyone to focus down here. But this is about a 70 miles long from north to south, so it's a little bigger than it really appears. But essentially, this is the storm that initially was severe. Convection is going to develop here. Telemetry is not working on this, so I've put in stars to indicate the moments where the seeding took place. And each star that you'll see, and it'll flash quickly, corresponds to 4 silver iodide and 1 calcium chloride flare. So I'll just go ahead and run that. And again, 4-hour time stamps. This ends up being about a 3-hour time loop. And eventually this all rains out, a little bit develops here, but it all starts to push east.
Those are really moving rather slowly.
Yeah, this, I wish I had the picture, but you could actually see the storm, but it was right before sunset. I'll go ahead and, yeah, it was pretty stationary. Again, the sea breeze was way up here, so I still can't figure out what it was that these storms were developing along, because this area should have been relatively stable. But clearly it was not.
What time it was?
This was the seeding, the storms went up just before 7 p.m. local time. And they lasted until about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Okay, and there's the rainfall map. I suspect this may be a little bit of hail contamination because this is where the severe warning was issued. I don't know about here, but the Cocoa Raw's observations underneath this one showed over 2.5 inches of rain, which was nice. The last project I want to look at, the Southwest Texas Rain Enhancement Association out of Carrizo Springs and Pleasanton. Their target area was cut down to 2 counties for 2012. They still ended up with 27 seeding days, 44 flights, and 69 flight hours. This is the only program in the state that actively will do hail suppression, although the West Texas program also has a hail suppression permit. This is the first time, I think, in the history of your program that there was no, right, Stephanie, there was no hail suppression operations at all.
I want to say 2011 was the first year, but I might be wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, no hail suppression in 2012. The southern part of her target area, Webb County, where Laredo is, they continued in their extreme to exceptional drought with fewer opportunities there. Uvalde County fared a lot better. All right. And there's also a little case to watch with Stephanie's program on October 1st. Was this a front?
It was like a northwest flow.
Yeah.
Northwest flow, okay. Yes.
I'm missing the 2 in the chloride, in the formula of calcium chloride.
Oh, should we see HCl2? Okay, we don't. All right, well anyway, convection again developed, I guess the impulse was moving south and southeast across her target area, so they took off and they seeded initially with 9 silver iodide flares and a calcium chloride flare. It actually continued into her southern county, but she did not, or it's not going to be shown here, just the initial wave over her northern target area. But this stuff continued all the way down to the coast, which is pretty impressive. That's a good distance. So this is the stuff that she's going to be seeing. This is her county here, and then it'll settle to about here, and that's where the animation's going to stop. But it continued all the way down here, where her other part of the target area goes. And this went all the way to the coast. Yeah, over here where the ball is. So let's just watch that. And again, no telemetry here, but I think it was about early on in the animation where she did her seeding, and they just kind of left it. All right, I'll play this one. There's stuff going across San Antonio. I think we were seeding too at this time. All right. All right, finally I want to end, every year we do send our radar data off to Archie to evaluate, and in 2012 this was no different. The first day of seeding was March 19th in the state, the final day, it actually wasn't October 15th, it was November 3rd, because I think I was driving up to California when that happened. So that came out to 162 target area operational days. May to September, No surprise there, the most active period, 143 of the seeding days occurred there, and 88% of all the days. And then the least active periods were March and October. I think that should have said something else, but okay. Of all the clouds that we seeded, 353 were able to be identified and analyzed by Titan. Of the 353, it's broken down as such. Small clouds are clouds with a precipitation mass of 10,000 kilotons or less. Large is anything over that. And a type B cloud is either a small or large cloud that was seeded after it was 1 hour old. And then breaking it down by project, the average precip increase in each of the target areas is shown as such. And Panhandle and West Texas routinely do quite well in this department. 10 to 14% increase. The clouds down here in South Texas seem to be a little more anemic. There's a lot more short-lived, but nonetheless, an average 1 near about an inch increase in precipitation on average over the season, and the corresponding percentage increase as well. So overall for the state, on average, a little under an inch and a quarter, and about an 8% increase estimated for precipitation. And I think that's it. So if there are any questions. Yes.
Yeah, Todd, with the National Weather Service changing their warning criteria a few years back, is there a noticeable difference in the number of storms you guys can see?
Yes.
You've noticed in the last few years?
Yeah, because obviously, back before they made that switch, the warnings a lot of times would just be for the entire county, even though you may only have one corner where something was going on. And it's written in our laws that when there's a warning, we can't see within the warning area. But now they've made it so refined, which is really helpful to us. So yeah, even though there may be, if the storm may be severe in one part of the county, we may have other clouds that are far enough away from it where we can go out. So the answer is yes, we have seen an increase.
Great.
Yes.
Todd, with dual pole, the weather service radars, you guys are using levels of data operation and records being run from Titan. Have you guys explored using any of the dual pole data?
Well, we actually just this past week, our final radar got brought into dual pole. So our Titan ingests it all, but I think the version we have, we can run a command which will bring up the radar separately. Of all our target areas, I think with the exception of gens, you need at least 2 radars to effectively see the whole target area really well. But when we want to look at the dual pole products on Titan, we have to enter this command that only lets us look at 1 radar at a time. And then a lot of times, if that storm just happens to be right in that spot where it's not quite visible or as visible from one radar as another, it's a little difficult. But the one thing that we can't do that I really hope that can change is we can't do cross sections with the dual pole products, which is something I know we'd really like to be able to do.
You talked about the public outreach that you're doing. How important is that to talk to the public about what it is that you're doing and trying to maybe squash some theories or just trying to get the public engaged in some sort of dialogue with what it is that you're doing?
Right. Well, I think that the attitude we've adopted is, we want people to know what we're doing. We don't necessarily need to have them sit there while we're having a cloud seeding mission, but we want them to understand what we're trying to do. And I think, an educated group of people are not going to turn around and say, well, you're cutting down our rain, you're causing chemtrails. I did say that word, but there are people who we just don't understand. So we've really taken it upon ourselves to go out and talk to the people, whether it's schools, like the FFA, whatever, just anyone who wants to listen and understand what we're trying to do. Not everyone essentially agrees with what we're doing, but they don't get irrational about it. But we find that by letting people know what we're doing and show them exactly what's going on, a lot of people will, they they come to the realization, well, this is a viable thing that we're doing. So I think having that has made it, the seating idea more acceptable, at least here in Texas.
Any more questions? Thanks, Todd.